Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare
Cole, he's my miracle child. So how does your miracle child get cancer?
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, so nice to see you.
Thank you.
Hope everyone is doing fine. So, we welcome all the devotees who have joined on the Zoom and also to all the devotees who have joined on the Facebook and YouTube. Thank you so much for your association. So, in our presentation section, I didn't send a reminder and I don't think anybody is available. So my expectation was that all the devotees will be checking on their own, their schedule. So I guess I need to send a reminder for next time. So that's fine. What we can do for 10 minutes, we can read from Srila Prabhupada's Leela Amrit. His 125th birth anniversary is coming. Wonderful, wonderful day to celebrate. Usually it is Nanda Mahotsav on that day, a day after Janmashtami. But it is said celebrating the birth anniversary of a pure devotee is even more auspicious and more glorified than Krishna's birth. Why so? Because Krishna becomes very happy when his devotees are glorified. So we should all plan to celebrate this birth anniversary of Srila Prabhupada very, very enthusiastically. That will be on Tuesday. So for next 10 minutes or so, we will read something from Srila Prabhupada's Leela Amrit. Beautiful, beautiful book. If you don't have it at home, please let us know and we can arrange a copy for you at a very discounted price, because this year being 125th anniversary, birth anniversary of Srila Prabhupada, it is being celebrated in a very, very grand way in all over the world in ISKCON. And these Srila Prabhupada's Leela Amrit, it is available by mercy of devotees at a very discounted price. Let me share my screen quickly. It is chapter 39. I will build you a wonderful temple. I will build a wonderful temple for you. That is the heading of the chapter. So anyone would like to start reading? And please be participative. That's the whole idea of these sessions. Unless we interact, it is already virtual. It's very hard to keep the enthusiasm going on. Personally, I don't like virtual sessions, these phone Zooms, but we have no other choice. So please try to participate as much as you can, and let's keep each other enthusiastic and more encouraging. So I will start probably with a couple of paragraphs, and then all the devotees can join. Prabhupada had postponed the Mayapur cornerstone laying ceremony until Gaur Purnima, the appearance day of Lord Chaitanya, February 29, 1972. He had requested a big festival with a pandal and free feasting for guests. His disciples from all over the world would attend. So Prabhupada always wanted to always have these grand festivals, grand celebrations to attract more and more people towards Krishna and to create more and more services. I want very much to hold this function this year with all my students. It is a very important day and it will be a great service to Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur and to his son, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So please arrange for the program. In December, it is 1972. So in December, when the war had broken out between India and Pakistan over Bangladesh near Mayapur, the Indian government had forbidden foreigners to stay in the northern area of West Bengal. The devotees had vacated returning a few weeks later when the war has ended. They had continued arranging for the festival, and a few days before Gaur Purnima, Prabhupada arrived to his temple. Anyone would like to continue reading here?
May I?
Please, uncle, please.
When Prabhupada saw a banner on bamboo poles, "Welcome Srila Prabhupada," he remarked, "I don't know if my God brothers will like this." He had already heard that some of his God brothers objected to his taking the same title as their spiritual master. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, he had not actually taken the name, but his disciples had given him the name a few years ago in America. In May 1968, while in Boston, Prabhupada had been dictating a letter and had mentioned to his secretary that Swamiji was a third-class title for the spiritual master. "Then why do we call you Swamiji?" his secretary had asked. "The spiritual master," Prabhupada had replied, "is usually addressed by names like Gurudev, Vishnupad, or Prabhupada." "May we call you Prabhupada?" his secretary had asked. Prabhupada had replied yes, and his disciples had switched from Swamiji to Prabhupada. One of the devotees had inquired further from Prabhupada about the meaning of the word and had published a statement back to Godhead magazine. Prabhupada. The word Prabhupada is a term of the utmost reverence in Vedic religious circle, and it signifies a great saint even among the saints. The word actually has two meanings. First, one at whose feet there are many Prabhus, a term meaning master, which is disciples of Guru use in addressing each other. The second meaning is one who is always found at the lotus feet of Krishna, the Supreme Master. In the line of disciplic succession through which Krishna consciousness is conveyed to mankind, there have been a number of figures of such spiritual importance as to call Prabhupada. Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada executed the will of his master, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and therefore he and his associate Goswamis are called Prabhupadas. Srila Bhakti Siddhavedanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur executed the will of Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur, and therefore he is also addressed Prabhupada. Our spiritual master, Om Vishnupad 108 Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj has, in the same way, executed the will of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada, in carrying the message of love of Krishna to the Western world, and therefore we American and European humble servants of the divine grace from all the different centers of the Sankirtan movement have followed in the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada and prefer the address His Grace our spiritual master as Prabhupada, and he has kindly said yes.
Hari Bol. So I hope we understood the why Srila Prabhupada is known as Prabhupada. Actually, it's a title. It's a very prestigious title in the assembly of pure devotees. And his real name is His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada is added in the end to the name of these great acharyas. And there are two meanings mentioned here. One is who has disciples, meaning one who is master, who is directing and guiding and instructing others in the path of Krishna consciousness. That is one meaning. And the second meaning is who is always found at the lotus feet of Krishna. Meaning what? Does not mean that he is, lying there at the lotus feet of Krishna, of course. Such a pure devotee always thinks himself as servant of Krishna, but the real meaning of the lotus feet of Krishna means always following the instructions of Krishna, always trying to serve Krishna, always trying to glorify. That is the real meaning. Anyone else would like to continue? Maybe we can continue reading for 5 more minutes.
Everyone concerned had been happy about the title Prabhupada, and no one had foreseen the envy the name would uncover. How could Prabhupada compete for the honor due his own spiritual master? He was fixed as the humble servant of his spiritual master. The members of ISKCON saw no harm in calling their spiritual master Prabhupada, and there could be no stopping them. He was their Prabhupada. They had even printed A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada on their invitations for the Gaura Purnima festival. But Prabhupada knew it would raise the eyebrows of certain of his more critical godbrothers. When inspecting the living accommodation for the devotees, Prabhupada found spacious white canvas tents, one for the men and one for the women, with fluorescent lighting inside. A large bandal tent stood in the center of the other tents, and a small tent in the rear served as a kitchen. Immediately surrounding the small compound were rice fields. The ground, therefore, was slightly moist, and the wet fields bred large mosquitoes, which emerged at sunset. Conditions were primitive, but many of these devotees were the same disciples who had traveled with Prabhupada for a year and a half in India, sometimes living in dirty dharmashalas with bare rooms and sometimes living in cold tents in Allahabad. The devotees had not come to Mayapur to be comfortable, but to serve Prabhupada. In future years, by the result of their efforts, many devotees would be able to gather comfortably in Mayapur in the spacious buildings Prabhupada was planning.
So very nice. See, when we read these divine literatures, we have to focus on what is there, what is the learning for us there, right? Otherwise, we will just keep on reading and it will seem like a story, right? Which might have no meaning. So we have to catch the keywords here. And that's how a writer, Acharya, they write these transcendental literatures. They want to make it interesting for the reader, as well as in between, they will give us the teachings. So right now, what I'm highlighting here, that is the teaching in this section. The devotees had not come to Mayapur to be comfortable. So Srila Prabhupada had the desire to have a grand festival in Mayapur. And he was also expecting all his disciples from all over the world and followers to come and celebrate, right? And That time in 70s, it was a very underdeveloped place, Mayapur. Today, when we go to Mayapur, Navdeep in West Bengal, we see some nice buildings, nice temple, nice places to stay, nice accommodation, wonderful prasadam. We have been there, so I know you can't beat the prasadam over there. So many varieties, everything is very nice, very comfortable now. But in those times, hardly they were even huts, broken huts. So Srila Prabhupada himself was living in the broken hut. As a leader, as a spiritual leader, he was guiding. He's an acharya, showing by example. And devotees, and please note, these devotees were not just Indians, hardly Indians, like who were used to these circumstances, these situations. They are coming from all over the world, who were used to comforts of the Western world, right? And they are coming just out of pure love for their spiritual master, just out of love for a pure devotee, just out of love for Krishna. And they were not coming there to be comfortable. So the learning for us is, when we go to a spiritual program, we go to a temple, the idea should not be what is there for me, not for my comfort. I want to make devotees more comfortable there. I want to serve devotees there. That should be the consciousness. Very, very beautiful point here. Okay, so this point also came here in the next section. Bhavya, can you read this paragraph also, and then we will stop.
Well aware that Westerners were unaccustomed to the austerities of living in India, Prabhupada wanted to provide facilities so his disciples could feel comfortable and be able to focus their stay in India on spiritual life without distracting inconveniences. Therefore, he was pushing them to help in various ways to establish a Mayapur building with running water, electricity, and other conveniences.
Nice, right? So devotees were not looking for the conveniences, but by mercy of Shri Guru and Krishna, eventually all the comforts will be there anyway, right? But the idea is, what should be our consciousness? Always serving mood, no matter what is the circumstance. Whether temple is flourishing or not, whether there are hardly any devotees or not, we should not be focusing on those material points. We should be focusing on, what can I do? What can I serve with there? That should be the consciousness, not the gossip. What's going on in the temple? None of those very, very mundane, very, very cheap talks. Very, very, that's the level we have to rise up to. And that will come when we will develop service mode in the association of devotees. So we'll stop here. It's about 8:10. And Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. We'll continue with our Bhagavad Gita. So let me share. Okay, so we are going to start Bhagavad Gita study now. And we are on chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga. Start with our Mangalacharan prayers. We all can sing the prayers together. We'll ask for the blessings and mercy of our spiritual masters, so that whatever we hear today, whatever we discuss today, whatever we say today can help us, help all of us in advancing in our devotion. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavascha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijan Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kant Namastute तप्त कांचन गौरांगे राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय वाञ्छाकल्पतरुर्भ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna, welcome once again to all the devotees who are on the Zoom session and who are on Facebook, YouTube. Thank you again. So let me share the verse. Actually, we have, anyone remember which verse we are in? Okay. So we completed until verse number 30 last time. Let's continue with 31. Sarvabhuta sthitam yo mam bhajati ekatvam astitaha sarvatha vartamano api sa yogi mai vartate sarvabhuta sthitam yo mam bhajati ekatvam astitaha sarvatha vartamano api sa yogi mai vartate. Anyone would like to repeat? We can have two devotees to repeat.
Sir, Sarvabhuta Stitam Yomam Bhajati Ekatvam Ashtita Sarvata Vartamanopi Sayogi Mai Vartate.
Sarvabhuta sthitam yo mam bhajatyekatvam stitaha sarvatha vartamanopi sayogi mai vartate.
Okay, thank you. Synonyms: Sarva Bhutaha Sthitam, situated in everyone's heart. Yah, he, who. Mam, me. Bhajati, serves in devotional service. Ekatvam, in oneness. This is the most important word in this verse. We will see how. Asthitaha, situated. Sarvatha, in all respects. Vartamanaha, being situated. Api, in spite of. Saha, he. Yogi, the transcendentalist. Mai, in me. Vartate, remains. Translation: such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of the super soul, knowing that I and super soul are one, remains always in me in all circumstances. Very clear, right? The meaning is very clear. Okay, no worries. We'll try to understand it. By mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we have the purport. purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anyone would like to read the purport?
A yogi is practicing meditation on the super soul, sees within himself the planetary portion of Krishna as Vishnu with 4 hands, holding conch shell, wheel, club, and lotus flower. The yogi should know that Vishnu is not different from Krishna. Krishna in this form of super soul is situated in everyone's heart. Furthermore, there is no difference between the innumerable super souls present in the innumerable hearts of living entities, nor is there a difference between a Krishna conscious person always engaged in the transcendental loving service of Krishna and a perfect yogi engaged in meditation on the super soul. The yogi in Krishna consciousness, even though he may be engaged in various activities while in material existence, remains always situated in Krishna. This is confirmed in the Bhakti Rashmarta Sindhu 1.2.187 of Srila Rupa Goswami. Nikhilasav api avasthasu jivan mukta sa uchate. A devotee of the Lord, always acting in Krishna consciousness, is automatically liberated. In the Narad Panchatra, this is confirmed in this way. Dekaladi vichine Krishna seto vidya cha tanmayo bhavati kshipram brahmani yo jayat. By concentrating one's attention on the transcendental form of Krishna, who is all-pervading and beyond time and space, one becomes absorbed in thinking of Krishna and then attains the happy state of transcendental association with him. Krishna consciousness is the highest stage of trance in yoga practice. This very understanding that Krishna is present as Paramatma in everyone's heart makes the yogi faultless. The Vedas, Gopala Tapani Upanishad 1.21 confirms this inconceivable potency of the Lord as follows. Eko pi san bahuda vabhati. Although the Lord is one, he is present in innumerable hearts as many. Similarly, in Smriti Sastra, it is said, Eka eva paru Vishnu sarva vyapina samsaya aishwarya dirupam ekam cha suryavat bahudeyate. Vishnu is one, and yet he is certainly all-pervading. By his inconceivable potency, in spite of his one form, he is present everywhere, as the sun appears in many places at once. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So, a lot of points actually, if we see in this verse. So, let's read the translation again. Such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of the super soul, knowing that I and the super soul are one, remains always in me in all circumstances. In this section, what exactly are we talking about? What we are discussing is the actions, right? The symptoms of advanced devotee. That's what we have been discussing in the last few verses, including this one and the next one, right? So how that pure devotee, how that bhakti yogi or true yogi, what are his qualities, how he looks like, how he behaves, right? Or the better term is how his consciousness looks like. And so that we can strive to, we have some benchmark, right? And we can have a check where we stand and where we have to go, right? So because it's a science, Bhakti Yoga is a science. Devotion is not just emotions, not just sentiments. We have to practice it like, that's why it is called a science of self-realization, right? So there is and these scriptures and the instructions of our spiritual masters, they give us how to practice this science. So we should have a benchmark whether we are advancing in devotion or not. Otherwise, there is a very good chance that we will fall into a trap where we will keep thinking that we are, good devotees, we are chanting, we are serving Vigraha at home, we are reading scriptures or hearing kathas or classes also. But if there is not benchmark, there is no checklist, we will not be able to judge ourselves whether we are progressing or not. I hope I'm making sense, because we will be, for the lack of better words, we will be like self-proclaimed devotee, right? We will claim ourselves as devotees, but we have no way to know how much we have progressed. So the word, the most important word here is ekatvam in the word, right? Bhajati ekatvam astitaha. So what is the meaning of ekatvam? Ekatvam means ek, right? One. It is, the root of the word is ek. So the idea here that Krishna is telling Arjuna that a devotee, when he is advanced in bhakti, then his vision becomes same as the vision of Krishna. Please try to understand. This is again one of the verses that is misquoted and misunderstood by many people, especially Mayavadis. What they say, this ekatvam means is become one with Krishna, become, merge in Krishna. No, as living entities, as souls, we always maintain that separation from Krishna, that individuality from Krishna. We are always individual souls, part and parcels of Krishna, right? So that is why the word uses ekatvam, not ek. So the point is that when one becomes very advanced in bhakti, his vision, the way he will look at the material world, his consciousness will become one with Krishna, meaning he will start looking at the world around him just like Krishna is looking. Very advanced stage. We can't even comprehend, or at least I can say for myself, I cannot comprehend that, right? Because I'm not nowhere close to that state. So I hope this point is very clear. Any doubt in this point? Because this is very important, that the vision of a pure devotee or advanced devotee becomes same as vision of Krishna. Now we will see what is that vision. Any questions on this? Okay. So when we say vision becomes same as Krishna, meaning who is Krishna? Krishna is our master and we are his servants. So it is very logical, very natural that when we become perfect servants of Krishna, a good servant of the master will always have the same vision as master. There is nothing odd about it. It's very natural, right? What it also means, the qualities of Krishna will start coming into that person, into that servant. So when we say qualities of Krishna will start coming into that person, doesn't mean that that person will become Krishna, because we are minute souls. So we have the same qualities. Inherently, we have the same qualities as Krishna, which are covered due to our ignorance. But those qualities are present in minute quantity. Okay. So by practicing Bhakti Yoga, by practicing devotion, those qualities start manifesting. They start coming into light automatically. So that's the idea here. And another word here used is Vartamano. So the same point, that soul has a separate existence we as living entities have separate existence. So although a yogi in Krishna consciousness, a bhakti yogi, see, this chapter is about dhyana yoga, right? But it is like a negative marketing. We will see how in the next three verses. But Krishna is telling what needs to be done in the Ashtanga yogi, who's a advanced Ashtanga yogi or dhyana yogi. But at the same time, the idea is that he is not encouraging us to perform this yoga system. And we will see why, because Arjuna will reveal how difficult it is. So that discussion will come in the verse 33 and 34, I believe. So it's like a negative marketing or something, right? So what we have to learn from these verses is how can we incorporate these things, the teachings, into our practice of bhakti yoga, right? So the person, a yogi in Krishna consciousness, although he may be engaged in various activities, a bhakti yogi is not sitting, eyes closed, just meditating on Krishna. That is not bhakti yogi, right? Bhakti yogi is action in Krishna consciousness with knowledge. Please understand this. Bhakti yoga is action in Krishna consciousness with full knowledge of Krishna, right? So that is karma yoga plus jnana yoga. We are acting in Krishna consciousness to please the Krishna for the purpose of Krishna with full knowledge of Krishna. With full knowledge of Krishna meaning what he likes. Krishna is a person. So we accept as bhakti yoga and we know that Krishna has his own likings and dislikings also. Just like a person. And that's why we are interacting him at the personal level. Okay. So a yogi in Krishna consciousness, meaning bhakti yogi, even though he will be engaged in various activities, like devotees are always running around, this service, that temple, this program, this celebration. So it may look like they are in so much running around. They are doing so much activities. So are they really thinking about Krishna? So the point here is, if we see in the purport that Beena Mataji just read, there is no difference between a Krishna conscious person who is always engaged in transcendental loving service of Krishna and a perfect yogi engaged in meditation on the super soul. So if a yogi is engaged, he is just meditating on the super soul, a perfect yogi. So Prabhupada is always very, very careful in using his words. He is genius. He added perfect yogi, so that nobody will just think, oh, I'm thinking about Krishna with closed eyes, so I am same as, a bhakti yogi. No, a perfect yogi. Because when perfect yogi will think about Krishna or meditate on him, automatically he will reach to a stage where he will transcend himself into bhakti yogi. He will have no choice. Because when he will start meditating on Krishna, he will realize Krishna is a person. And he will start serving him. So that's a different point. But the point here is that when we see devotees running around for so many activities to serve Krishna and devotees and the mission of Krishna, then we should not think that they are at a lower level than somebody who is always thinking about Krishna or meditating about Krishna. Okay. So now, another important thing here is that such a bhakti yogi, such a yogi, when he advances, he will start understanding the so-called pleasures and distresses of this world. When he will serve Krishna and devotees, then he will get the higher taste. And then so-called pleasures that we see in this material world, which are actually source of miseries, We have discussed that. The pleasures of this material world are actually the sources of miseries, whether it could be our family, it could be our jobs, it could be money, right? They may seem like giving us pleasure, but very, very temporary, for very short time. So Bhakti Yogi actually starts, he understands, he gets this realization that it is actually cause of distress. Now let's understand super soul. This verse is all about super soul, right? Now this super soul, who is this super soul? Let's start a discussion. Anyone?
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Okay, Krishna. Can we be more precise in our understanding? Krishna appears in different forms, right? So which form of Krishna is super soul, and where does it reside? We know that super soul is present in the heart of all the living entities. Meaning whether they are human.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I think Kshirodakshay Vishnu, who lives in our heart as a Paramatma Swarup, or Super Soul
Okay.
Swarup.
Okay. Any other answers? So we have actually discussed this fact also many times. Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. And then he expands into other forms. So I will touch at a very high level. Then he expands first into his Swansh as Balram. And that Shri Balram, he expands himself as Narayan, like Karnodakshay Vishnu, and then Karnodakshay Vishnu goes into all the universes as Garbhodakshay Vishnu. He appears there. He is in all the universes, and then he also expands himself as Kshirodakshay Vishnu in the hearts of all the living entities, right? So super soul is manifestation of Krishna, but in the 400 Vishnu Swarup. Now, understand the mercy of Krishna. Even though we living entities chose to turn away from him, and we foolishly decided to enjoy this material world, right? The reason we are in this material world is the fact that we are very impure, very contaminated. Otherwise, we could not live here. So, and why it happened? Because we turned away from Krishna. Still, Krishna is very, very compassionate. Our Suhrad. Suhrad means our real friend. Still, he accompanies us in the form of super soul in our heart, sitting beside us. Sitting beside us means sitting side to side us, soul, in no matter what form of life we take birth in. And for how long? Eternally. He is very near to us. He is still our best well-wisher. He is ever ready to save us as soon as we honestly recognize our helplessness and pray humbly. He is waiting for us because he never intervenes on the way of our desires. He gives living entities full freedom to desire. So he's waiting for that moment when living entity, us, we will go back to him. And he is waiting with unlimited patience. He's looking at all the nonsense activities we are doing in all the living forms, in all our births. And we are thinking we are enjoying this world. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is actually teaching us in the Shiksha Ashtakam how to pray to Krishna in the very, very humble mood. Ainandatanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishme vadam patitam mam vishme bhavam budau kripaya tava pad pankaj isthita dhuli sadrasham vichintaya. In Shiksha Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, O son of Maharaj Nanda, O Krishna, I am your eternal servant. This is how we should pray in a very helpless mood. O Krishna, I am your eternal servant. Yet somehow or the other, I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and birth, and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. Make me your servant. Very simple prayer, but very powerful. So we should pray very intensely. Guru Maharaj says, unless we cry for Krishna in a very sincere mood, very intensely, we cannot go back to Godhead. Very advanced. This is also a very advanced stage. We can cry, our tears may come while listening to some bhajans or things like that. But until we consistently cry for Krishna all the time, in this helplessness mood, we cannot go back to Godhead. We cannot go back to Krishna. That's the price we have to pay. So when will we be able to cry like that? That's why we have to advance in bhakti. We have to advance our consciousness. We have to develop that love. We can cry for somebody only when we are in true love with somebody, right? Now, how to realize this super soul? We are saying that we're sitting in our heart only, very close to us. So how to realize? Krishna says in 18th chapter, Ishvaraha sarva bhutana hrideshu arjuna tishtati. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, right? This is declared. Krishna has declared that. So, in another verse in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna also says that sitting in our heart, he is actually controlling everything. Nothing can move without the sanction of Krishna. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, Sarvasya chaham hriday sanvishto mataha smritir jashanam apohanam cha. That I am seated in everyone's heart. And from me only comes the remembrance, forgetfulness, and knowledge. Right? So sometimes we read too much, or hear too much, and or study too much, and we think we have become jnanis. We have become big devotees. Right? That ahankar may come. It might come. But actually, it is by mercy of Krishna only that we are able to understand anything or remember anything. And by mercy of Krishna, we will forget also, right? So it is all controlled by Krishna. Now, as a super soul, Krishna is directing us as Chaitya Guru. So we have discussed many types of gurus: Chaitya Guru, Shiksha Guru, Diksha Guru, Vartman Path Pradakshika Guru, right? Different types of gurus we have in our lives. So Krishna is the original Guru, is the Chaitya Guru sitting in our heart. But the problem is that because of our contamination of our consciousness, our heart, we are not able to, he's still giving directions to us all the time. He's guiding us. But we are not able to understand, we are not able to listen to those instructions. So if somebody is our guru, he can only be our Guru when we are listening to his instructions. So again, Krishna is very merciful. What he does? He sends Diksha Guru and Siksha Guru, right, in this world to us, who can pass on his instructions to us. So although he is sitting in our as a super soul in our heart, but we are so ignorant that we are still not listening to him. So he has to again send spiritual masters in the Sakshat Roop. That's why Shri Guru is non-different from Hari in the sense that they pass on. They are actually transparent medium to Krishna. So Krishna is here, let's say, very high position. Jiva, living entity, is at a very lower position. So Guru comes somewhere in between. He holds our hand, pull us up, and he also prays to Krishna on our behalf that Krishna be merciful on this fallen soul. He's trying hard to come to you, but out of his conditioning, he's not able to. So please, you also come down a little bit and accept him. You also lower your standard a little bit. Because in this lifetime, he cannot become pure, or possibly in many lifetimes also. So because Krishna cannot deny the request of pure devotee, he will come and hold our hand. And he will allow us to serve him. And that's why we all are able to serve Krishna in whatever capacity. But until our standard will become top class in bhakti, right? No entry in Goloka, because otherwise we'll create mess there. Only pure devotees can go to the Goloka, right? So that is the whole system of this bhakti yoga, to become pure. So Paramatma is Krishna in the form of super soul, is our dear friend, and he is constantly instructing us, but out of our ignorance, we are not able to understand those instructions. So he has to come in the form of Shri Guru. Sakshat Hari. Okay. So we have to go to Krishna, we have to take shelter of a spiritual master first, practice devotion under his instructions, and then advance in bhakti. Any questions on this verse so far? I hope the points were understood. If not, please, you can ask a question before we go to the next verse.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I have a question.
Yes, Mata.
So, super soul, we can think as a Krishna or as a Kshirodakshay Vishnu. I mean,
so there is no difference between Vishnu and Krishna. He appears as a localized Paramatma, but we should never differentiate between Krishna and Vishnu. It is just another form he is appearing to us.
So we can say like we can say Krishna or as a
Yes,
as a like
absolutely.
Vishnu form. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's a beautiful form. Krishna's Vishnu form is very beautiful. So let me share my slides. We can meditate on these forms. Krishna, as a super soul, is in a beautiful 400 form with chakra, gada, kamal, and shank in his hand. Beautiful Kaustubh mala. It's a beautiful, beautiful form. Maybe we can read a couple of verses where this form is mentioned. Prasanna vadanambhojam padmagarbharunekshanam Neelotpal dalashyamam shankh chakra gadadharam Beautiful verses in Srimad Bhagavatam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has a cheerful lotus-like countenance with ruddy eyes like an interior of a lotus. Beautiful soft eyes like lotus flower. And a swarthy body like the petals of blue lotus. He bears a conch, discus, and mace in 3 of his hands. Right? Conch, discus, that is chakra, and mace gada in 3 of the hands, and other 4th hand has lotus. लसत पंकज किंजलका पीत कौशय वाससम श्रीवत्स वक्षसम भ्रजत कौस्तुभ मुक्त कंधरम. His loins are covered by shining cloth, yellowish like the filaments of a lotus. On his breast, he bears the mark of Srivastav, a curl of white hair. The brilliant Kaustubha gem is suspended from his neck. The beautiful form of Krishna is described in Srimad Bhagavatam, verses after verses. So we can meditate on these forms of Krishna, beautiful forms of Krishna, when we are chanting, or whenever we get time, we can take darshan of beautiful form of Krishna, because this will purify our senses, our eyes, our mind, our heart. Just by looking at the transcendental form of Krishna, it purifies our consciousness. And how do we take darshan of Krishna? We start from the lotus feet. We don't directly look at the face. We first surrender. The first requirement is surrender. We start taking darshan of lotus feet of Krishna, and then slowly we move upwards, and very humbly we offer ourselves to Krishna. Okay, any other question? So we see in the purport there are a couple of points. By concentrating one's attention on the transcendental form of Krishna, who is all pervading and beyond time and space, one becomes absorbed in thinking of Krishna and then attains the happy state of transcendental association with him. So as soon as we start attracting towards Krishna, we will become, we start getting the bliss in his association. We start getting that attraction towards Krishna. In the next verse, Krishna is saying, who is a perfect yogi? There is even an advanced stage, even a more advanced stage. He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings in both their happiness and distress. O Arjuna, what is the meaning? That actually this chapter is nothing but a checklist of how to advance in devotion. So unless we understand chapter 6, very hard for us to judge or measure where do we stand in our devotion. So this verse is actually telling us the highest platform of Bhakti Yogi. What it means by comparison to his own self here is, who is this advanced devotee? Such an advanced devotee, he is aware of everyone's happiness and distresses. How come? Because he, through his sadhana, through his step-by-step progress, he has realized what is true happiness, what is distress in this world. So now his vision is very clear. And when he sees others are suffering in this world and trying to enjoy this temporary happiness, he knows that nobody can be he knows for sure nobody can be truly happy until one is connected to Krishna. As soon as we are disconnected from Krishna, that is a misery. So now he is thinking about how he can help others to come to Krishna, to get connected to Krishna. Just like in real life, sometimes we see parents telling their young kids, "Oh, thoda enjoy karo, go to movies, ghum ke aao." Why? Because they have that experience of happiness through those means. So they say chill out, chill out a little bit. Because their level of understanding of happiness is until that only. But a perfect yogi, advanced yogi, a pure devotee, he has seen what is the highest level of happiness. So he starts guiding other souls. And just like Srila Prabhupada, very compassionate, right? Out of compassion only he came to the Western world at the age of 70 years. Who will do it? Even at these 40 or 50 years of age, we have no capacity, no energy, no enthusiasm to go out and attract others. We are struggling. But a pure devotee, out of compassion, out of love for others, not for name, fame, not to show that how much I know, not to show that how much a pandit I am, but out of pure compassion, he goes out around the world. Parivakacharya. That's why when we do Jayadhwani, we say Parivakacharya, one who take parikrama of the whole world to deliver the whole world. That is the pure love. The idea of attaining spiritual knowledge is not to become pandit, but to develop love for Krishna, for the whole humanity, so that we can bring them back to Krishna. Right? Very, very high stage. I'm not qualified to speak about these verses, but out of pure mercy of Srila Prabhupada, who has given these wonderful purports, we are trying to understand. Such a devotee will start preaching to others out of love and compassion. The key word is he will start preaching not out of force or not out of a need to get appreciation or name or fame or money, right? But out of natural compassion. Understanding that these people, this whole world is in great misery and they're wasting their life. So such preachers, such pure devotees are at a very, very advanced stage. So therefore, before we start preaching, we should first realize ourselves. We have to purify ourselves first. So basically the idea in this verse, and Srila Prabhupada has indicated in the purport, preachers of Krishna consciousness, of this science, they are at very, very high platform. Again, just since I'm speaking, I should not think I'm a preacher. I'm nowhere at that level. That pure preaching is totally different, very selfless, no other expectation. They will accept all criticism, all misunderstandings. Right? We know how difficult it is to go out and preach or to run these Krishna conscious programs. We get disturbed by little criticism, by little, small things. And these pure devotees, they don't care about it, and that they are at a very high. And Krishna, they are very dear to Krishna. A preacher of Krishna consciousness is very dear to Krishna. The cause of a distress of a living entity is forgetfulness of his relationship with God. Right? We discussed that point. Now in the next verse, 33, by hearing all these 30, 33, 32 verses, Arjuna got bewildered. such a high standard. Now look at Arjuna, what he's saying. O Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me because the mind is restless and unsteady. Krishna is basically saying this process of bhakti yoga, or sorry, dhyana yoga or ashtanga yoga is very, very impractical. That is the whole point. Although Krishna is talking about dhyana yoga, he's indirectly saying it's very hard to follow this practice. And why so? Because our mind is very restless, very unsteady. Mana chanchal. Arjuna says, man is very chanchal. So it is not possible. It is not possible for me to practice this dhyana yoga. It is not possible for an ordinary man to leave home and go to a secluded place in the mountains of jungles to practice yoga in this age of Kali. That's why dhyana yoga is very difficult. People are not serious about self-realization, even by simple practical means. Right? Isn't that true? Hardly anyone is serious about self-realization. How many people we see, they are very, very serious in the path of Krishna consciousness. So what to speak of this difficult yoga system? How can we expect these people of Kali Yuga to follow this strict dhyana yoga system or ashtanga yoga system? We discussed in length all these yoga programs we see, they are not real yoga. They are just a means to satisfy our senses. So what to speak of this difficult yoga system, which regulates the mode of living, the manner of sitting, selection of place, and detachment of the mind from material engagements. Right? And Krishna has given so many instructions how to practice Ashtanga yoga, particular posture, particular breathing style, selection of place, should be in a secluded place, not like in a group. Very, very difficult. So now Arjuna is saying the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong. O Krishna, and to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind. Arjuna is saying that controlling mind is more difficult than controlling the wind. So he's saying that I can control the wind with the power of my arrows, but I cannot control my mind. This is how dangerous our mind is. Sorry. I think it is verse number 34. Chanchalam hi manaha Krishna pramathi balvadadhradam tasyaham nigraham manye vayor ivsu dushkaram. Because this mind is pramathi, always agitating, always disturbed. Kala, always quarrel going on. Balvat, very strong. Sometimes some acharyas have mentioned this mind is as powerful as Krishna. Dhradam, obstinate, very, very arrogant. Not arrogant is not the real mind, but very, very, isko Hindi mein bolte hain, dheet. He will not listen to you. Once he takes over, he will not listen to you. The actually mind should not be controlling us. Above mind is intelligence. So we are supposed to use our intelligence all the time, but mind is so strong that unless we are very pure in our sadhana and very advanced in our devotion, it takes over, it becomes the master. Instead of intelligence, it has become our master. Lord Krishna says, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment. Now, what is the observation here? What is Krishna saying? He's agreeing to Arjuna that what Arjuna is saying, that mind is very difficult to control. Krishna says, I agree with you. Right? So Krishna, Bhagwan Krishna, when he says that he agrees that mind is very, very difficult to control, it means it is super, super, super duper difficult. Otherwise, Krishna wouldn't have agreed. For Krishna, everything is like this, right? But he agreed. But what he says, still it is possible by suitable practice and detachment. Now we'll spend just 5 minutes understanding what it means practically, because otherwise it will just become theory. So what is the meaning of by suitable practice and detachment? Any ideas? What does Srila Prabhupada mean by suitable practice and detachment? Actually, Krishna is saying suitable practice and detachment, and Srila Prabhupada is explaining here. So suitable practice means, please participate in the discussion. What kind of practice are we talking about here?
Chanting and
Yeah.
associating.
Yeah, the practice of bhakti, practice of devotion. So by practice of Krishna consciousness, when we get engaged in this processes of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, like 9 processes given by Srila Prahlad Maharaj, that is the practice of devotion we have to do, right? The first and foremost of such devotional engagement is Shravanam. It starts with hearing Krishna Katha. By hearing Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. And even more important about it is what? Okay, practicing chanting, Mataji said, chanting, or whatever we do in devotion life. What is even more important? Any clues? Practice means what? We execute something, some action, right? But it has to be with rules and regulations, with techniques. Practice, somebody might say, yeah, keep doing the same thing again and again. It's a practice, right? That is a general understanding. So let's understand this. Let's say, for example, I want to learn how to play Mridangam. Can I learn just by playing again and again? It is not enough practically. Maybe I can play a little bit, but pure just by repetition, it is not possible. So I have to follow certain rules and regulations given by Mridangam teacher, right? And follow certain techniques. Then only I can practice properly. And that is the reason so many devotees, even after years of chanting and devotional service, they don't feel that bliss. They're still in so much anxiety. Being anxious for Krishna is okay. We should be anxious for Krishna. Nothing wrong in that, because we want to serve him in the best possible way. But the different kind of anxiety, that bliss, that happiness is not there in their lives. Why? Because they're not following the techniques given by our acharyas or the spiritual masters. They're not following the rules and regulations properly. That's why. So it is very important to understand these words. Otherwise, this Bhagavad Gita study will just become, just a theory. So we have to take the practical points from these purports. So practice means executing devotional service with rules and regulations and techniques, right? So chanting, right? Just like we discussed chanting. So our mind might not be getting engaged. So our spiritual masters or our senior devotees, they can share some techniques, how how to practice chanting, how to increase our intention during chanting, right? Vigraha Seva, we might be just doing out of ritual. Karna hai, subah sham aarti karna hai. But what is the purpose of aarti? What are we supposed to do during aarti? What should be our consciousness? Cooking. The idea of cooking is to cook for Krishna, prasadam, right? So while cooking, very easy to say, but idea is to remember completely about Krishna, totally about Krishna during cooking. And the devotees have shared their experiences that when we have the consciousness that we are cooking for Krishna, then our lust for food, our hankering for delicious food automatically goes down. Just like the example of mothers at house, right? Their whole intention, their whole cooking is, let's say, to feed the family, husband, other family members, kids. And even, let's say, not much is left after they feed the family, they're still very happy, very satisfied. Because their consciousness is what? I have to serve my family. So we have to bring that consciousness when we are serving Krishna. Cooking was just an example, but any service. It should not become a ritual. Right? So, what is the best way? Chanting Mahamantra to control our mind. Why we are not able to focus? Because mind is not in control. Just now we discussed. So, mantra. We have to take shelter of mantra. Manaha iti trayate iti mantra. And what is the mantra? We, not just mantra, we have been given Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So more and more we'll chant with attention as much as possible. Mind will start coming in control. And that's why we have to accept the rule of chanting minimum 16 rounds. If we are just chanting 1 or 2 rounds, good for starting, 3, 4, 5 rounds, but we have to spend ample time, enough time to control mind, because 22 hours or all around the day, our mind is engaged in something else. So Guru Maharaj says, take 2 hours of sannyas. That is the real sannyas, not the dress or interest or taking danda. That is the external appearance of a sannyasi. But the real sannyas is the sannyas of mind, where we take 2 hours out every day and just chant. So we should accept the instructions of our spiritual masters and come to the level of chanting at least 16 rounds. That is the start. And then we have to go towards Kirtaniya Sadahari. Always do Kirtan of Krishna. Always keep thinking about Krishna. Right? Not just like a Dhyan Yogi, but always keep serving in some way or the other. And when we will chant offenselessly, what happens? Mind becomes in our control. We take over our mind. Right now it is our master. And then 2 things. One is practice, and second thing Krishna says here is detachment. So we really have to understand these 2 words. What is the meaning of detachment? Anyone? Just for maybe 5 more minutes, we can complete it. What is the meaning of detachment? Okay, can somebody read this? Highlighted portion.
It means like not being attached.
Okay. Can you read this line on the screen?
Yeah, just a sec. Vairagya means detachment from matter and engagement of the mind and spirit.
Okay. Next line also.
Impersonal spiritual detachment is more difficult than attaching the mind to the activities of Krishna. This is practical because by hearing about Krishna, one becomes automatically attached to the Supreme Spirit. This attachment is called Parishanubhava.
Pareshanubhava. Pareshanubhava. So, see, this is the beauty of Srila Prabhupada's purport. He's talking about detachment, but again, he's talking about attachment. Yeah. So, attachment means, vairagya means two things. Vairagya. Let's focus on the word vairagya. It is vipreet rag. The meaning is vipreet rag. Where is our rag right now? Where is our attachment? Our interest right now is in the world, this material world, sansar. So vipreet rag means we have to go opposite to the world, go opposite to the sansar. That is vairagya, one meaning. Second meaning is, V means in Sanskrit, special. So vairag also means special rag. So just not that we have to go opposite to the sansar, to the world, become detached to the world, but we have to develop this special rag towards Krishna. So not just detachment. It is both detachment and attachment. Just detachment, this is the meaning for Jnana Yogis, very dry. That doesn't last long. For Bhakti Yogi, who are enjoying this mellow of Bhakti, who are always in bliss, enjoying this process of Krishna consciousness, for them, the meaning of vairagya is detachment from this material world and attachment towards Krishna. It may sound simple, but many devotees, they miss these points. So that's why these Srila Prabhupada purports are very, very practical. Bhagavad Gita as it is. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So wonderfully, he has given us very, very practical meanings of Bhagavad Gita, these teachings. So I hope this is very clear. How can we advance in bhakti? In short, two things. Practice, and we understood practice means just not executing devotional service as it is, but executing devotional service with rules and regulations and techniques in mind, under instructions. And number two, we have to also develop detachment, meaning develop detachment towards this material world. The proportion we become detached, automatically we become attached to Krishna in Bhakti Yoga. So both detachment and attachment. So how to practice this practically? How to practice this practically? Good association, must. Very good association as much as possible. And Nirbandh Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagyam Yuchyate. Krishna says, use everything in the service of Krishna. Actually, this is from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Nirbandh Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagyam Yuchyate. Srila Rupa Goswami Pad, he says, use everything in this world we have. Just not leave it. That leaving will not help. But we start using everything for service of Krishna. We have to be very honest in that, very transparent in those dealings. Automatically, when we start using everything we have for Krishna, we start losing taste in enjoying those things. Just like we discussed the example of how mothers, when they cook food for the family with love, they themselves do not want to get satisfied with that food as it is. They get more satisfaction by serving the family, kids, husband, by feeding them, right? So these are the two important takeaways, I believe. And next verse is an end to this section, not really the chapter, but to this section, that Krishna is declaring that for one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work. whose mind is not controlled, he cannot achieve self-realization. But whose mind is controlled and who strives by appropriate means is assured of success. That is my opinion. That is my opinion. Whose opinion? Not mine opinion, not Dhir Krishna Das's opinion, nor anybody's opinion. This is the opinion of Lord, Supreme Lord Krishna. What is his opinion? One who tries to control his mind and he strives and he gives, at least put efforts to control his mind and to execute devotional service, he will sooner or later be assured of success. So it's giving us a lot of hope here that agreed, it's a very difficult process, but controlling mind is very difficult. But at least we have to show to Krishna our sincerity, our effort, that at least I'm trying, Krishna, right? And when we make our effort in the shelter of devotees and Guru, like we discussed, Krishna is at the top, we are as living entities, conditioned souls at the bottom. Shri Guru comes and he picks us up, brings down little standard of Krishna so that we can start serving him. And then slowly and slowly we can raise our standard even more to go back to Krishna. That is the science. There is no sentiments, no emotions involved. Those are internal manifestations of our bliss. But we have to endeavor to get that mercy of Krishna. So thank you so much for listening. Any questions, any comments, any additions, please feel free to unmute yourself. And anything, any takeaways you have got from today, or any corrections. If anything wrong I might have said, please forgive me. You can feel free to correct me also. So Hare Krishna, thank you so much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Any questions, any comments? While you might be thinking about any question, this line from purport of 6.36, trying to practice yoga while engaging the mind in material enjoyment is like trying to ignite a fire while pouring water on it. So if we have any idea or anyone telling us we have to balance our lives, let's keep enjoying the spiritual life, and let's keep enjoying the material life and also spiritual life, Krishna is saying that is not possible. It is like trying to ignite a fire while pouring water on it, meaning it will never happen. We will be miserable. So if we have any idea where we want to enjoy spiritual as well as material, better to keep ourselves in the material life. Otherwise we will become miserable. Such a show of yoga may be materially lucrative. It may be a good show to the others. It may be a good show to others that, see, I am such a big yogi, such a big jnani. I am, with dhoti kurta tilak, I'm a big spiritualist. At the same time, I'm materially enjoying everything. So we have to check ourselves. It may be a good show. We might be successful in showing off to others and impressing materially minded people. But as far as it is useless, as far as spiritual realization is concerned. Very strong words. Therefore, one must control the mind by engaging it constantly in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Hare Krishna. I will stop here. Anything anyone want to say? I hope we agree with the discussions, the opinion of Krishna at least. That is the final opinion of Krishna. Okay. If no questions, few announcements. So Srila Prabhupada Leela Amrit, again, it is available at very, very discounted price. something we all should have at home. Many or almost all of spiritual masters in ISKCON, if you ask them, they will, I mean, all scriptures are worshipable, all are important. They will say Bhagavad Gita is preliminary study, then Bhagavatam, then Chaitanya Charitamrita, and you will hear them saying Srila Prabhupada Leela Amrit is even above them. Such a beautiful literature, because this is nothing but Bhaktamal, a life story, a transcendental life story of a pure devotee, Jagadguru, Srila Prabhupada. We all should have it at home. You all should read it. And please let us know if you would like to get a copy of it. Available at very, very discounted price. What is coming up on Monday, August 30th? Janmashtami. Most awaited festival of the year. So this Monday, August 30th, from 8 p.m. to midnight, we will be celebrating Janmashtami at ISKCON of Harrisburg Temple. So all are welcome to join us. Anyone needs any more details, more information about the program, please feel free to contact us. Devotees have been working very hard, very sincerely, with full of devotion to come up with a very blissful program on that evening. Shri Krishna Janmashtami ki Jai. And there are very many seva opportunities available. You can see on the screen, and I have shared all these flyers, all these opportunities on the WhatsApp group also, along with a lot of other contents. So please let us know, or you can contact Temple at the given email address on the bottom directly, or you can also serve by going to the ISKCON of Harrisburg website. There is a donation option there. And wonderful, very creatively, devotees have come out with birthday list, just like whenever kids' birthday is there, we ask for their wish list. So this is the wish list for Krishna at ISKCON of Harrisburg this year. Anyone would like to serve in any capacity, please let us know. See, services will happen whether we participate or not. But these services are sent to us by devotees so that we can participate. It will happen anyway, one way or the other now. And then following day, on Tuesday, 31st August, even more glorious day. What is that? Srila Prabhupada's birth anniversary, 125th. Why is it more glorious? Because Srila Prabhupada is the one who gave Krishna to us, right? Who could have thought in the USA we will get this bhakti, at least we will get this opportunity to do devotion, to perform devotion. So very, very auspicious day. Devotees are very, very enthusiastic to celebrate this day. Again, Tuesday, August 31st. It will be a grand celebration in all over the world, in all the ISKCON temples. And please join us at ISKCON of Harrisburg at 5 p.m. August 31st. And again, for this festival also, there are some opportunities to serve Srila Prabhupada. If anyone is interested, please let us know. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Anyone has anything? So if not, we'll go to Narasimha prayer. We still have about 3 minutes left. So we hope to finish up on time. Anyone would like to do Narasimha prayer? Anil uncle, how about you? Would you like to do Narasimha prayer today? If you are around.
Yeah.
Yeah, please. Whenever you're ready.
Namaste Narasimhaya प्रह्लाद दायिने हिरण्यकाशिपूर्वक्षः शीलटङ्कानखालाये इतो नरसिंह परतो नरसिंह यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंह गृहे नरसिंह हृदये नरसिंह नरसिंहमदि शरणं प्रपदे तव करकमलवरे नखम् अद्भुत शृंगा दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु अनुभृंगा केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय नरसिंह देव जय नरसिंह देव नरसिंह देव जय नरसिंह देव जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जी गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल नरसिंह भगवान महाराज की जय
Prahlad Maharaj ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you so much, uncle. Very nice. So thank you, everyone. Okay, I think we are having darshan of Kishore Kishori ji. Let's see. Kishore Kishori ki jai. Jai Sachidulal ki jai. Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Mai ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bhakton ki jai. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and we look forward to see you for Janmashtami and Srila Prabhupada's birth anniversary celebration. And humble request that please join on time. Most of the devotees today joined after 8 p.m. So let's make it an appointment with Krishna every Friday. Join at 7:30 p.m. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.